everyone, happy Gemini season. I woke up so happy and motivated today. This is the time to try new things and to manifest. So only good things this Gemini season. I know there's a lot of negative stigma, mainly because of what we see out there, but most of the time it's not true. I love Geminis and I love Gemini season. I think it brings a lot of good things. I think every season brings a lot of good things. In honor of Gemini season, I wanted to go over Ascendants today because my Ascendant is in Gemini. And guys, I am not an astrologer. I am not a savant in astrology. I am learning. It's a passion of mine. I follow a lot of accounts and it's something I really enjoy and it's something that I enjoy talking about. So I like to share it with you guys. I've learned a lot recently and I thought it would be helpful to share it. So one of the tips when reading your birth chart is getting to know your rising sign, and it's a really important part and it's a really easy step when it comes to reading your birth chart and getting to know yourself. So yeah, I used to think that rising signs were not that important. It was just what people saw of me. It was just how people feel when they first meet me. It's just what I give off to the world, and it kind of is, but there's more to it. You tend to behave like your rising sign when you're around strangers in a job interview. It's how you first come off to the world, and especially in new situations. It's your personal style, your looks, your appearance, believe it or not. There's several articles and stuff out there of how your rising sign affects how you look, which is funny and a little ridiculous, but there could be some truth to it. I remember seeing this thread on Twitter and it was talking about females with Gemini rising and how they all have something similar, something with the eyes, the lips, and I thought it was really funny. And girls were just sharing, girls with their rising sign in Gemini were just sharing pictures of themselves. Of course I shared one too. And I mean, everybody was really pretty, so I think it's a compliment. What I found really interesting when I was learning about it is that it often matches a dominant sign of one of your parents. Neither of my parents are Gemini sun, or I mean, it's difficult because I don't know when my mom was born. She doesn't know, so I can't do her full chart. I could do my dad's, which I'm gonna analyze because he is a non-believer, thinks this is silly. He's a Leo sun. It's interesting because I have Gemini in Ascendant and my sister has Gemini in her moon. So I'd be interested to see if either of my parents have it. Also, people usually really identify with their rising sign. Due to all the negative stigma around Gemini, I did not. I was like, oh my God, I'm not a Gemini. I'm not two-faced. But there's so much more to Gemini. I think that's not true at all. I have a lot of Gemini friends and I'm very mutual dominant in my chart. So I think I get along with Geminis really well because we're similar, indecisive, smart, very moldable and flexible. Like, we like change. So I see a lot of positivity in Gemini. Once I started reading up on Gemini, I started to identify with it more. I like learning new things. I have a lot of different interests. So I see it. And I'm also very, very indecisive. It's interesting because like I'm a Pisces sun, Gemini rising, so it's like a lot. People often even identify more with their rising than their sun, so I think that's also important to look into because you could be whatever sun sign and not really relate to it, but then once you do your rising, you're like, ah, yes, I relate to that. I have been looking at Astro Library because they have a lot of free lessons and stuff, and they have a rising sign calculator. If you don't want to do your whole chart, or if it's just easier this way, you could go ahead and do that. It is also known as the Ascendant. So if you do one of these, it's that little AC, Ascendant, C minus pointing at Gemini. It's often easier to guess someone's rising sign because that is their exterior shell. I think I possibly come off more bubbly and like a Gemini in a sense, but when you get to know me a bit more, you realize I'm really emotional and reserved as well. So I have my Pisces and I'm very dreamy, and I think when you get to know me, you start to really realize that I'm very much like a Pisces. And then I have my Cancer moon, so it's just like a lot. It's funny because people usually don't guess I'm a Pisces. I've gotten comments from people that are also Pisces suns, and they'll be like, you're not a Pisces, you work so hard, you love learning, and you're so like driven. And then I'm like, no, I actually am a Pisces. And they're like, oh. My sister's an interesting case. She is a Virgo sun with a Capricorn rising and a Gemini moon. And I could see the Capricorn rising because Capricorn's very reserved, and I think that's how she comes off. At first, people tell her that she's very like standoffish, and they think that she's very stuck up and into herself. And then they get to know her, and she's very like sunshiny and bubbly and positive. So yeah, I actually do see it. Whenever I see people's rising sign, I'm like, ah, yes. What I love is people that have the same sun and rising, so they come off exactly as their sun sign. So I wanted to go over how each one of them are. So an Aries rising, I think that aggression and that energy comes off right off the bat. It's very rash and can be argumentative, but I think Aries is very fierce, and that fierce energy just radiates. I think they love very deeply as well. I think Aries, they get a bad rap because how fierce and aggressive and fiery they are, but I think there's a lot of good there, and they are very protective. And Mars rules Aries, so that's a very important planet in your chart if you are an Aries rising. So a Taurus rising, I was actually supposed to be a Taurus. I was supposed to be born during Taurus season. One of my friends actually, when I first met her, she asked if I was a Taurus, that she got Taurus energy, which is interesting. I see Taurus as having a very strong, stubborn, stable energy. I like to think of them as more of a subdued, reserved Leo. I know they're not really supposed to get along since they're both like fixed and stubborn, but they are more alike than unalike. I also would see them as being like the mom or dad of the group. So if they have that type of energy, I think that's what I see. All right, so Gemini rising, my rising, friendly, communicative, flexible, indecisive, unsure, likely to do multiple things at once, which I do. Clever, witty. I mean, Gemini is known for being very, very smart and dabbling in a lot of different things. Nervous, anxious. They say that mutual signs do tend to struggle with anxiety and always down to try new things. That's what I love about Gemini. Like, they are willing to learn and are open-minded to a lot of different stuff. So I think that's what a Gemini rising is. I don't think it's necessarily two-faced. I'm definitely not like that. I say what I think, and I'm not going to be fake about it. What I also think is Gemini appears to be very confident, but like deep down, they have their insecurities, which is true. And Mercury is very important in your chart if you do have Gemini in your chart. And if you have Taurus in your chart, then obviously Venus. So Cancer rising. I have a Cancer moon. My mom's a Cancer. I love Cancers. I think definitely Cancer would come off as very compassionate, sweet, also that mother energy, moody, protective, a bit temperamental, and a little bit shy. Even though, I mean, I do know a lot of Cancers, and a lot of Cancer suns to me are very friendly. People love them, they're very out there. So I think, I don't know, I think it could honestly just go either way, but I think Cancer just really wants to be friendly and help people and be there, so I think that's where that friendliness comes in. The moon rules Cancer, so yeah, that's a big one for you if Cancer's in your chart. Leo rising. So Leo's obviously the sun, so that would be important in your chart if you have Leo in there. generous, proud, emotional, romantic, extroverted, vain, egotistical, courageous, hello the lion, sentimental, self-confident, showy. Yeah, if you're Leo rising, this is what comes out to the world. And I think that's what's very interesting, because you meet a lot of Leo suns, and I especially have met a lot of Leo suns, and I know, and they're either spot on, like yes I see it, or no, I would not have guessed that in a million years. And that is because the rising sign is there. So if you're a Leo sun but your rising is in, I don't know, Pisces or Capricorn or whatever, then it would obviously be different. You'd be more reserved and not as showy and out there. But if you're a Leo rising, then for sure that's you. Virgo rising. So this is another sign where Mercury would be very important in your chart if you have Virgo there. Virgo tends to be practical, analytical, dependable, sister signs to Pisces, so I think there are similarities there. So I think definitely if you have that Virgo rising, you're very attentive to detail, you're careful, probably not that loud, you're more to yourself, more reserved. Libra rising. I always think of Libra as like the pretty, like charming, charismatic, just like appealing in a sense, very sociable and creative. I would think that a Libra rising person would be very flirty and friendly. And this is another sign also ruled by Venus, just like Taurus. So that would be very important in your chart. Okay, so Scorpio. I think the planets for Scorpio that would be important are Mars and Pluto. Scorpio is very stubborn. They're the most stubborn water sign. They're secretive, deep. I know there's that whole thing that they say Scorpio's kinky. So I think they're more mysterious. I think they may be kind of hard to pin down and self-reliant. I don't think they'd necessarily be the loud one, the one that's out there as in a rising. I think they'd be more calculating in a sense, a little bit more reserved. You'd come off a little interesting and mysterious, that people would really want to get to know you better. Okay, so a Sagittarius rising. Jupiter is a very important planet for Sagittarius, so that would be important in your chart to look at. Sagittarius to me is the life of the party. They are fun. They're the sign that everybody wishes they were kind of like. Loves exploring, loves adventure, loves traveling. I think you just come off very fun. You come off as someone that everybody wants to be friends with and be like, somebody that you wish you could just let go and enjoy life like. And they're very moldable and changeable as well, since they are mutual. So I think you just come off as very active and accepting as well, accepting of different cultures and open to new adventures and activities. Capricorn rising. I touched upon this because that's what my sister is. I think you'd come off very reserved, kind of business-like, like I mean business, like I'm here to work and get things done. Very ambitious, a bit controlling, down to earth, critical, and possibly a little cold. But yeah, I think they come off as that person in your class or that person at work who gets things done and wants to better themselves. They're always striving for more, for that top grade or for that promotion. Saturn rules Capricorn, so that would be an important planet in your chart. Aquarius. So an Aquarius rising person would be very interesting, unique. They're always kind of seen as a little weird. Like they have like interesting interests, they don't really care what other people think, and they just do them. They can also be seen as friendly, yet a little bit detached, like they're in their own little world. I also think they'd be seen as very intellectual, because I think they really do like learning. I think there's also a sense of freedom to them. Like I said, they do what they want, rebellious and independent, yet still being kind of sociable. I think they're also a little bit hard to pin down. Important to consider their sister signs with Leo, so I think there are some similarities there. I think they're definitely more free-flowing, but you also need to know that there's also that fixed element to them. And for them, Saturn and Uranus would be important in your chart if you have an Aquarius rising. Pisces rising. My sun sign, I'm always gonna feel so much love towards Pisces. I think you'd come off dreamy, sensitive, compassionate, empathetic, and just very romantic and idealistic. Just very easygoing. I think you just kind of be like very dreamy, look like a little bit of a fairy. Just, yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Like, just a little pixie-like, a little like a dream. They just be very like cutesy. I think they're likable too. I don't think they're, you know, the life of the party, like putting themselves out there so much. Very kind of to themselves, like a little shy. And for Pisces, Jupiter and Neptune would be important in your chart, of course. So I think that's it. That's all about your ascendant. Just, I guess, don't take it too seriously, and if you want to look more on what your appearance would be like based on your ascendant, don't get butthurt, because there are like nasty people out there that say negative stuff, but don't listen to it. You're all beautiful. It's all great. This is just to help you understand more of yourself and how you come across to others. Your ascendant is your chart ruler in your chart, so it serves as kind of a filter. So it is pretty important. So it's important to look at and understand it and analyze it. And yeah, just take everything with a grain of salt too. Nothing is set in stone. This is not predetermining your destiny of who you are. It's just kind of just getting to know yourself. You make your own destiny, you make your own choices. It's just a fun thing to look at and explore. So yeah, that's it. More videos to come soon, guys. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know your ascendants. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know if it was helpful. I would love to know. And also let me know what you're planning on manifesting and learning this wonderful Gemini season.